I never truly believed in ghosts or the supernatural until the night a visitor arrived at my home. Not through the front door, but through the shadows themselves, creeping silently into every corner of my life and turning my world upside down. It all began on a gloomy Friday evening when a violent storm rolled in, dragging heavy clouds across the sky and cutting power to my entire neighborhood. I was alone that weekend, my family having gone out of town, and I welcomed the solitude at first. I lit a handful of candles, settled into my favorite armchair with a book, and tried to ignore the persistent rumble of thunder and the eerie dance of shadows on the walls. But soon, the comforting quiet I had expected was replaced by a suffocating silence, the kind that presses down on your chest and makes every hair on your body stand on end. As the hours dragged on, I began to notice subtle things, small noises that didn't fit the storm's rhythm, faint footsteps in the hallway when I knew no one was there, the soft creak of a door closing somewhere in the house, and the unmistakable sensation of being watched. I told myself it was just my imagination, nerves playing tricks in the dark until the very first visit. It happened just past midnight. I was lying in bed, the candlelight flickering weakly from the nightstand, when a sudden chill swept across the room, freezing the air around me. My breath caught as the shadows in the corner seemed to twist and thicken, pulling themselves into a vaguely human shape, tall and gaunt, with a presence so heavy it pressed on my skin like ice. I tried to look away, but my eyes were locked onto the figure's pale, almost translucent face, hollow eyes staring right at me. I wanted to scream, but no sound escaped my throat. The visitor faded away as silently as it had come, leaving behind an oppressive silence and a coldness that lingered long after. That night was just the beginning. Over the following days, the visits grew more frequent and more aggressive. The shadow would appear in different rooms, standing silently in the doorway, hovering near the window or lurking just beyond my vision. I began to notice strange marks on the walls, long, jagged scratches that looked fresh, as if made by desperate claws, and the faint, unmistakable scent of old wood and damp earth wherever the figure had been. My sleep became fragmented. I woke countless times to the sound of whispering voices, low and mournful, calling my name in a language I didn't understand, but somehow felt in my bones. I set up cameras around the house, desperate to prove to myself that I wasn't losing my mind. When I reviewed the footage, I was horrified to see a dark, shifting shape moving silently through the hallways and rooms, sometimes stopping to stare directly into the camera with eyes that bled darkness itself. It was no ghost story anymore. I researched the house's history and discovered a chilling truth. Decades ago, a woman named Margaret had lived there, tormented by her abusive husband before mysteriously vanishing one stormy night, never to be seen again. The more I learned about her tragic story, the stronger the presence became. One evening, the visitor came for me in a way I couldn't ignore. I awoke to the sensation of breath on my face, cold and heavy like winter fog. Sitting up, I found the shadow standing at the edge of my bed, its face inches from mine, an expression twisted in silent agony and rage. I tried to scream, but found my voice stolen, my body frozen with terror. The visitor reached out, and I felt its fingers like shards of ice dig into my skin, leaving deep scratches that burned and bled. Panicked, I fled the house the next morning, refusing to return. But even now, years later, whenever I'm alone in a dark room or hear a whisper on the wind, I feel the visitor's cold eyes on me, waiting for the night it can cross the threshold once again and claim what it was denied long ago. It started as an ordinary move into a new apartment, a fresh start I desperately needed, after years of feeling trapped in the monotony of my old life. The building was old, a little run down, but affordable and close to work, perfect on paper. I was excited at first, but soon subtle things began to unsettle me, things I couldn't explain or brush off as normal quirks of an old building. The first night, as I lay in bed, I thought I saw a face in the window of the apartment across from mine, a pale, gaunt face with hollow eyes staring right at me. I blinked and it was gone, leaving me questioning if it was just my imagination or the trick of shadows. But over the following days, the sightings grew more frequent and more disturbing. The face never moved, never blinked, just watched me silently, as if waiting for something. I told myself it was someone else's reflection, or a neighbor playing a cruel joke, but the unease settled in deep, twisting into a knot of dread in my stomach. One evening when the sun had barely set and the city lights flickered to life, I saw the face again clearer than ever, pressed against the window pane with a faint, cruel smile. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak and groan of the building sounded amplified in the silence, and I felt eyes on me even in the darkness. Then came the scratching on my window, faint at first, like nails dragged lightly over glass, but growing louder, desperate. I was terrified to look, but finally forced myself to peer out. The face was there, closer now, pressed so hard against the glass I could see the veins under the pale skin, the emptiness in the eyes. I screamed and slammed the window shut, but the sense of being watched never left me. The days blurred into nights as the face appeared whenever I was alone, at the window in the reflection of the bathroom mirror, even sometimes just out of the corner of my eye. I reached out for help, but my friends said I was imagining things, stressed from the move. But then strange things began happening inside my apartment. Objects moved on their own, lights flickered, and sometimes I woke to find deep scratches on my arms like the visitor had reached through the glass to touch me. One night I heard a whisper just beyond the window, a voice so cold and hollow it seemed to seep into my very soul. It said my name over and over until I was shaking, frozen with fear. I realized then that the face wasn't just watching, it was waiting, hungry for something I couldn't understand. I moved out the next day, leaving behind all my belongings. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone in a quiet room, I catch a glimpse of that face in reflections or shadows, its hollow eyes watching, waiting for the moment it can cross over and finally get what it came for. Growing up, our family home always felt a little off, but it wasn't until the summer I turned 18 that I truly understood how dark the secrets beneath its foundations were. The basement was an unspoken taboo, a place we were told never to enter alone, especially after dusk. My parents dismissed it as old plumbing noises or the house settling, but I always sensed something else lurking down there, something alive and hungry. One night, after a long day of summer heat and restless thoughts, I decided to face my fear and explore the basement alone. Armed with only a flashlight, I descended the creaking stairs, each step echoing ominously in the stale air. The beam of light cut through the thick darkness, revealing old furniture draped in dusty sheets, cobwebs clinging to every corner, and strange symbols scratched into the wooden walls, symbols I didn't recognize but felt deeply unsettling. As I moved further in, a faint whisper began, so low it was almost inaudible, curling around me like smoke. I froze, heart pounding, but curiosity pushed me onward. The whispers grew louder, becoming voices, chanting in a language that made my skin crawl, promising things I couldn't understand but that filled me with a dreadful anticipation. Suddenly the flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into complete darkness. Panic surged through me as I fumbled to turn it back on, but the whispering voices turned into desperate cries, echoing off the walls like a warning. Then I felt a cold breath on the back of my neck and a soft touch on my shoulder, fingers ice cold and trembling. I spun around, but there was no one there. I ran upstairs, slamming the basement door behind me and locking it tight, but the whispers followed, me faint and persistent, echoing in my ears long after I left the house for good. Years later, I learned that before we bought the house, a cult had used the basement for rituals, sacrifices to something ancient and dark. The whispers were the remnants of those horrors, trapped in the walls, waiting for someone to listen and release them. And sometimes late at night, when the wind howls just right, I swear I hear those voices again, calling me back to the basement, to the darkness beneath, where the true terror lies waiting.